Oh, it's Doodlebud here. Today I'm reviewing the Entry pen from Gravitas. This is the 5th pen of a batch of 5 sent to me by Ben Walsh to review. He was so kind. There's only 3 left because I gave 2 away to kind of spread the good vibes. This is his most popular pen, the Entry. Gonna do some Glam Shots, of course, and see what this pen's all about. Here it is, the Gravitas Entry. The reason it's called the Entry, because this is the entry level pen as far as a price point goes. So this is obviously his most popular pen as a way to make it affordable to introduce everyone to Gravitas pens. Ben actually based his Entry pen off of one of his very first pens, which was an Esterbrook J series. Now you look at this is like about a 1940s something, and this is brand new 2020s. And you're like, how did that look anything like it? But it was more sort of how the pen works. So he liked it. Good size, this fit kind of everyone's size hand. Some might like a larger pen, some might like smaller pens. So this is sort of right in the middle. Cool nib options. They look nice. And the thing just worked, and these are very affordable. Even nowadays, like this was my very first vintage pen, and I picked this thing up, I think $40 US, so very affordable pen even today, especially for a kind of entry into a quality, nice vintage fountain pen. So got inspired by that and used that sort of as not so much I want to make my pen look just like it, more as an inspiration to have an accessible, reliable fountain pen. The pen comes in this nice little sleeve, just like his other ones do. I don't know if it's 100% leather, but feels sort of like it. Nicely made, well stitched. It's got the Gravitas pens and logo on there. Tried to zoom in so you can see this is actually done via laser. And with the pen as well, we see this. This is to connect with Ben Walsh's Irish heritage. He's based out of Dublin, Ireland. It's an old Celtic language, and this translates into Gravitas pens. It's a cartridge converter pen. It comes with the converter and also 5, my hand's too big, 5 cartridges as well. And it's quality ink, so much so that I actually picked a bottle up myself. This is the Pelican 4001. It's the Royal Blue. I got this one on Amazon. This is like a vintage style bottle. It was cheaper than the new one, but I like that ink so much, just from the samples that he gives with the cartridges, that I picked up a bottle just for myself. So I did it in my top 5 blue inks a little while ago. A lot of people were recommending that ink, and I can see why. I really like it. So thank you for introducing me to a new ink as well. The cap comes off in 2 and about 1/4 turns. Really gorgeous, beautiful threads on there. You know me and my threads if you watch any of my other videos. Really nice quality threads. You can spin it on. This one doesn't quite have the momentum as the heavier caps to continue it spinning all the way and snap it down. Sometimes you can get it, but you need to just get it right. But that's because the cap is so light. But the threads on here are very, very nice. I'm going to take the pen apart so you can see all the bits, and then we'll get into some of the finer details. So here we got the insides of the pen. My hands might get a little bit wet because I just washed it out to show you guys this. It comes with a really nice converter on here. It's got the Gravitas logo, if we can focus, with a nice little touch there as well. Really nice and smooth. I hadn't seen this converter until I gotten one from Ben here from Gravitas Pens. It's a really nice motion, really well built. It just feels a little bit more solid, and it works really well. Fits down in there into that bore onto the nipple quite well. You might have to just push it on a little bit snugger the first time you get it, because this is a really nice, tight, secure fit, so you're not going to have issues. So that's really good about that. We are nice and close up to the section. It is made from stainless steel, and it has these tiny little grooves on here, which is quite nice to help with it not being too slick. Also, this section here is coated, so it's got what's called a PVD coating. The coating is done through, it's called physical vapor deposition. That's how it's done. And you can have different colors based on what you're doing with your coating process as well. We got very nice smooth threads. There is a little groove that is for a potential future fitment of an O-ring if the pen should need it. Everything's just made super well. So I have a Jowo nib unit in here, and this has got a medium. It just screws in and out quite nicely. It is a tight fit. So you can see when it goes in there, it is not much room for play, but that's what you want. Really nice fitment. This is all just because that's how Ben designs his things. We did quite a long chat, just over an hour 15 or something. If you haven't seen that video and you want to learn more about these and get in some technical bits, feel free to watch that video. So that's about all there is to the parts of the pen. Not overly complicated, but they are done very well, and I'll point out some fine little details too. Going to quickly put this back together. If you do take the whole nib unit out, you are encouraged to put just a little dab of silicone grease on there. You don't go crazy, but that's, if we can, there we go. That's about all you need in there. Just screw it in nice finger tight. You don't got a wrench on it. That's good enough. And you just put the pen back together. Actually, a quick tip I thought just before I go further, so you get the cartridges with the pen. If you are a cartridge person, this is something you may have already seen, but in case you didn't know, now you will know. So if you put two cartridges back to back, it's pretty much the same size as a converter. This other Schmidt one that you get is typically a little bit longer. This one's a little bit different, so the back end's a touch shorter, but they're the same size. So what that means is if your pen can take a converter, you can put I'm not going to use it, but you can put your cartridge in there, take one, chuck it into the barrel like that. You screw it down, and now you got yourself a spare cartridge. So if you're on a trip, in class, whatever it is you're doing, in a meeting, you run out of ink, pop it out, you got a sparesies up in the back. I'll do some size comparisons a little bit so you can really get an idea. But again, I have a fairly large hand on its own. It's very, it's large enough for sure. But if you go to post it, this is what's quite nice. So if you look at how long that cap is to the body, let's mark it here. Look how deep it comes down, like almost the full length. I would say that's maybe, I don't know, 6 millimeters or 5 millimeters that it didn't go all the way down. So it posts there nice and deep, very secure. You don't have to worry about that. Doesn't backweight the pen. This is the stainless steel section. The body on this one is aluminum. It's anodized. This is their teal color. Another thing before you anodize is you got to prep the surface to make sure it's nice and smooth. So you get a uniform coating. The coating on here is absolutely perfect, but also it's bead blasted. So what that does, we had it in our little discussion. We chatted about this. It's like shot pinning almost the surface. And what that does is it hardens it a little bit. Just like if you work harden a piece of metal, it's sort of the same process, like a micro hardening on there, which helps into creating a harder anodized surface as well. It makes it a little bit stronger too. So that's just an extra little detail, a little step. You want to protect your coating. So what could you do to make it a little bit stronger? You do that. The other nice thing about having the stainless steel section, it's I think as heavy, if not heavier than the rest of the pen, is it keeps it nicely, it's still nimble, but it keeps it forward weighted. So it's very, very natural, easy to write with. This is actually, of all the pens, I love this pocket pen, the Century. This thing's a beast. This is full on in brass, but this is actually the most comfortable. When I picked this one up right away, I went, wow, this really feels nice and comfortable to hand. I could see doing a long writing session with it. It's nice and light, but not too light. It just kind of cradles in the hand very comfortably because it's got that forward weight to it. The posting's nice and deep. You don't have to worry about it coming off. Everything is just nice and secure, and it looks good. It's just, I don't think anyone could be offended by the way that pen looks. Another amazing feature with this pen, but also all of his, and this is why I'm just kind of, once I got introduced to the brand and got to know Ben, I've sort of been blown away by just how much he offers for just being a one-person pen maker. You can get this pen if you don't like aluminum. You can get other materials. You can get like stainless steel. You can get brass. You can get a copper. Now he has Delrin. I think there's polycarbonate and maybe unobtainium. One day he'll have that. He'll obtain some unobtainium and make a pen out of it. But yeah, he's got all sorts of stuff on the go, all sorts of options. So this is the Entry pen. This goes for, I believe, the price right now. Check his website, gravitaspens.com. But I think it's 65 euros, which I feel for this caliber of machining that you get and quality control. You have a cartridge, you have, 5 cartridges, you have a converter. It's a metal machine pen, nice coatings, all different materials. Each nib is checked and tuned if it needs it before it goes out the door. So there's just a lot he's trying to do with his pens, trying to give you the best value for a very fair price. And I would say it's pretty darn fair. If you're okay with spending a few more dollars, again, like I said, you can get other metals, other coatings. He's got a Skittles one. They also can get laser ablated and have some cool paisley patterns or skulls and crossbones I've seen. And then you can get, this pen in stainless steel with this laser ablation and a Skittles, with a 1.5 millimeter stub if you want, all the way down to an extra fine, and now he even has flex nibs for his pens as well. So the options, if you tried to do the combinations of pens you could do, it'd probably be like a Starbucks menu where there's like 10,000 options or something silly like that. But yeah, that is one really great thing about his stuff, is it's really limitless. Whatever you want to do, you can kind of make the pen the way you want it to be. I pointed this out on my other reviews as well, but if you haven't seen those, I'll mention it again. So here, if you can look here at the end of the section, it's chamfered. It's at a 45-degree angle, and if we look down in here, you could see that step. So what that is, that's a stop here at the end of the section. What that does is stopping the pen from going too far into it, but also it acts as a seal. But instead of having it just flat, he's got the chamfer, because then you got conical surfaces mating, and that really effectively makes it pretty much dead nuts tight. And to check it out, I even mentioned to Ben, he wants to find out. I'm going to get out the vacuum chamber, and after I ink the pen, I'm going to throw it into the vacuum chamber, do a test flight with the pen, and see if that leaks or not. I haven't had it leak here, but who knows? Let's see how it does on Doodlebud Airlines. You could see at the bottom here, let me put the flash back on, a little bit of tool chatter at the very bottom of that bore. So that's there. He knows it's there. To get rid of that, it's actually kind of expensive. You need to upgrade some tooling and a little more machine time. And so that, that it comes at a price. You got to pay a little bit more for that. So some ways that's you can mask that is have a cap liner. He doesn't have a cap liner. Again, you have to get those injected and molded. That's a large setup cost. You have to do a huge batch. So, he's a one-man go. Maybe at some point he'll have a cap liner, but that's an expensive endeavor to do. Just put a cap liner in a pen and get a custom one. So he doesn't try to hide the stuff, but there's a tiny little chatter at the bottom. He could get rid of that, but then you got to pay a little bit more. So that's sort of the happy medium. Another little fine detail here. So you can see how the threads don't go all the way to the bottom. You don't want to do that. So if the threads went all the way to the bottom, you have a very easy time pulling out that first thread, or so it'll get stripped or get pulled out. So what you do is you machine those first few threads away, so it starts further in, and that preserves your threads. It's also a multi-start thread, so there's 3 separate threads starting on here as well. It's a 3-start thread. So what that does is you just get more clamping power, and a little more friction in there as well. So that really helps with sealing the pen, but also making sure it's nice and secure when you do tighten it. The ends of the pen are pointy, I would say, but like I said before, they're not pokey. So they do come to a point. He said at one point it was even pointier, but then he put a tiny little radius on there, so it's not sharp. So, you may or may not like that. It doesn't bother me at all. Some people think it's too pointy, but you can't please everybody. It's not rounded, but I thought I'd just mention that to you as well. It's got a point, but not a poke. One thing I would point out really quick, you got metal, you have grooves. So when you do take the cap off, makes a little bit of a sound. It doesn't bother me at all. But, for some people, they might not like that, but thought I would just point it out. So let's try out this new bottle of ink that just came in today. So that's the Pelican Royal Blue, and this is the vintage style bottle. So yeah, it was even cheaper than the regular one, and it's got more volume too. I think this was $14 or something like that, Canadian, on Amazon. And it's 62 mil. The regular bottles are smaller. I think they're like 40 mil or something. I can't remember what it is, but this is a larger bottle as well, and a really good price. So I thought that's a pretty sweet deal. There we are. Got a little nib action with some ink on it. I'm inked up, ready to go, but I thought I would just point this out as well. So when he built the Entry, that's the full-size pen. The pocket pen, like he says, is you build a full-size pen and then you shrink it down. So the pocket is based off of the Entry. The Sentry, you can see it's quite a bit bigger, longer, and quite a bit girthier as well. But the cool thing with this is you can swap parts around. So if, I don't know, you have a stainless steel Entry and a stainless and a copper pocket, you can swap some of the parts and bodies too, because they take the same section. So I could put this cap on this pen, this cap on this pen. You could swap bodies. That looks kind of cool. It kind of back weights it, but yeah, you can do that with them. You can just take the section out. So if you have a different nib on a different one, instead of even taking the nib unit out, you could just take the section, swap it into the other pen. So all these parts, they fit each other. Here we are with a few pens for a quick size comparison. Starting on the left, that's a Lamy 2000, then a vintage Mont Blanc 24 Pilot Metropolitan, and then the Gravitas Entry. I lined them up off the back of the pen there so you can get an idea of them without the caps. Here we go. Then I will post them. Here we are again, same pens with the caps on, posted there so you can have a look. They're all fairly close to each other, very comfortable size. Grip section and overall diameter of the pen are fairly similar. That's why I picked these as size comparisons. So with the official dimensions of the pen, we got 143.5 for the full pen. If you take the cap off, the main body here, that comes in at 138.2. And then if you post it, it works out to 145 millimeters. Overall weight, we're pulling 30.8, let's just say 31 grams for the full body. Take off the cap and you're left with 24 grams. And if you're wondering about the section, it's about 1 inch long, so 25 millimeters. And it starts off about 11.3, 11.4 at the top and tapers down. The thinnest point here is about 9.75 millimeters. This book keeps telling me it's perfect for writing down notes, so let's use it for the writing sample. One of the best things I found with these pens from Gravitas is just the performance out of the box. It's really fantastic. So I've chatted with Ben. You can check out the video, but every single nib he goes through, adjusts it and tunes it. It's really great. I like the premium ink that it comes with as well. So much as I mentioned, I bought a bottle. The flow is great, the feedback is good, and the pen performs really, really well. I'm interested to see how his new flex nibs work out. So if you get one of his pens and you get a flex nib on there, please leave a comment below because I'm super interested in that as well. But for a steel nib pen, fully machined, these things are pretty much spot on. The cool thing with the Entry is it's not just the lower price point pen to get into the Gravitas brand. It's actually super, super comfortable. Of all those pens that I said I used, this one feels the nicest in my hand as well. This last little bit I'm going to show you is just something I'm working on, a little Doodlebud experiment to answer some questions I have about ink and flow and what's wet ink, what's dry ink, what's the difference, what are the different properties of the ink. So there's some sampling I'm having to do, and there's some math, a little bit of physics I'm playing around with. Even I'm getting a chemist involved. You probably know him, Michael Liu from Platypus Pens down in Australia. We were chatting back and forth about some testing as well. Just love that Pelican Royal Blue color. It's very nice. I have Mont Blanc Royal Blue. I don't care for it at all, but I love this one. The writing experience is great. Every single pen I've used of his, no matter the nib point size, it has all been perfectly tuned as far as smoothness and flow. It bled a little bit here. That's the paper problem. I don't know. This happens every now and then on this paper. Maybe it's I have a greasy hand or it does something to it, but that was the paper's fault there. But yeah, every single pen, you've just picked it up, inked it, and it's wonderful. Let's see how well that cap seals. So I'm going to break out the vacuum chamber. So if you haven't seen this yet, I did a whole kind of video series on this, really mainly just to answer the question I see come up all the time, especially in forums like on Reddit and stuff too. People ask, what do you do with a pen when you take it on an airplane? Are they safe? So I would see all sorts of different answers. There is variability in the filling system you have. So I thought, let's just simulate flying on an airplane right here on Doodlebud's desk. It's very easy to do this. I hadn't seen anyone do this yet. So check that video out. Maybe we'll do it again, but a quick short version, a quick and dirty kind of 3, 4, 5 minute version. But essentially what I do is when you fly up to 36,000 feet, you're in a slight vacuum. You're at a lower pressure than you were when you left the ground. So why that pressure differential matters, why that slight vacuum inside the cabin of the airplane matters, is when you left, you filled this pen up. There was some air in it, and that air was at sea level pressure, so higher pressure than what it is when the pen is now at 36,000 feet or whatever it is that you're flying at. There's a slight vacuum in the air cabin. So what happens, pressure wants to go from high to low, and there's an air bubble in here that wants to equalize with the outside air, and if ink is in the way, splat, it can come out. So there's a few things you can do. Watch that video. Like I said, I might revisit that, but this is a great way to test. He actually kind of requested I did it, how good his seal was. He wanted me to chuck this into it. We're going to pull a vacuum. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to double check to make sure there's no ink whatsoever. I wipe this clean. We're going to put it up in the vacuum chamber, simulate flying to about 36,000 feet, take it out. And if that's sealed perfectly, The air didn't get in the way. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to empty it a bit more so there's a larger air pocket. I'll make it even better. And then we're going to see if any ink came out. That means it wasn't perfectly sealed. Okay, there we go. So now we have an air pocket in this pen at ground level. You know, there's probably 14 point whatever, 4 PSI. I'm just going to squiggle it a bit there. Okay, so we got ink at the tip. I cleaned it all off. And let's put this in the vacuum chamber. I put the pen in there, nib down. So when you fly, you actually want to do it nib up, but I want to do worst case scenario here and do it nib down. Okay, so we're getting close to the right pressure here. You pull, it's around a 7 PSI vacuum. It's not much. What I'll do is I'll have it there, I'll soak for a bit and then check it, and then we'll give it full beans and really pull on it unfairly to see how well that seals. All right, we're gonna hit the release. Let's open up here and see what we got. Got my Kleenex ready, so we're gonna undo the pen. Obviously, if it's loose, it's gonna be exposed to the pressure differential, but let's pop it out nice and gentle. Nib still looks totally spotless. That looks very clean from my angle. You can't see it because there's no light, so we're totally clean here. No ink. It's like a white glove inspection there in the dorms. Let's see. Look at that. It does seal it. So I haven't had any of his pens ever have a nib dry up problem on me, and that explains it. Let's push it a little harder. So I realized I said earlier a 7 PSI vacuum. It's about a 3 PSI vacuum you need to pull. In this case, it was 7 inches of mercury. But I went all the way up, as you could saw earlier there, went up to 20 inches of mercury vacuum. That's exceptionally uncomfortable if you were in that type of vacuum in an airplane. So now it's been in there quite some time. Let's drop. Your eardrums were sucked out of your head and probably your eyes. But let's see if the pen survived. We want to do it live so you see that I didn't, sneak in a quick clean in. Oh, we got a little bit. That could have been just even when I took the nib out, but let's see. Because if it touches this, oh yeah, it's, well, let's show you what happened. Okay, so Ben, that's fair. I don't suggest you're going to be in an environment if you were in that type of vacuum, but standard airplane vacuum, I'm going to do it one more time just to confirm. It passed, no problem, but that was a bit too much. So just to be thorough, and actually Ben wanted to know, I did this 5 times. So we started off regular atmospheric pressure, went up, pulled the vacuum, what you would have in an airplane. I did it nib down each time. It didn't leak a drop for normal flying air pressure differential that you're going to get. So that's pretty cool. That actually does seal. But one thing you want to do, so let's say you put the pen somewhere, wherever it is, you get up to cruising altitude. So you still do have that pressure differential in there. It's sealed and the ink didn't blob out. So that's great. But if you want to use the pen in the airplane, don't open it with the cap down. What you want to do is go up, maybe even give it a little tap just to make sure that the air pocket now isn't stuck at the bottom, went to the top. There'll be an air space. So now when you take the cap off, the pressure has had a chance to equalize. There wasn't ink on the way and you're all nice and clean. And now that its pressure is equalized, you're fine. You can go ahead and use your pen on the flight if you want to do that. Then, same procedure when you go to land, you could just put the cap on, secure it. There's going to be a pressure change. There will actually be a vacuum inside the pen because when you get down and you land, you'll be a higher pressure out there. So ink's going to want to rush into the pen instead of out of it. And it's probably really not going to be an issue if the air wants to come in. But if you want to be thorough, same thing. Once you want to use the pen again, just equalize that way. And now you're back to sea level air pressure. In case you're wondering, this I call this the Doodlebud atmospheric gauge test that we do, or DBAG for short. If you want to learn how to make one to whether test pens or probably do something more important, you can check my video to see how it goes. I'll give you now some of my thoughts on the pen, the likes and dislikes. And if you haven't noticed already, I quite I quite like it. There's all those little features, from the machining to how things fit, even that little chamfer that's down there in the cap. When you go to post the pen, it's resting on that circumference inside that cap around here. So you're getting just a really nice, secure, tight fit on there without it being too tight. So just all those little details. The machining is bang on. You know, when you do precision stuff, this isn't like, we're not talking like ground or stuff like that. You do have to account for things like coating thickness on different materials. So if you're anodizing aluminum, PVD coating, the section here, I chatted with him about that, and he's well aware of that, and he even does that with his drawings. Now, this isn't like precision instrumentation, but he kind of treats it like that. So that stuff, I mean, I come from that industry, so no wonder I enjoy this pen quite a bit. The thing works perfectly. I haven't had it hard start, be dry, nothing. The tuning was great. The flow was great. Fits nice. It's not slippery. It's well made. Nice converter, 5 cartridges. I think the price point is pretty darn reasonable for what you're getting. And then there's all the customization. For me, there's really not any negatives with the pen. Yes, it can roll. You can see that it's a smooth round pen. There's lots of pens that are like that. If you don't like those types of pens, that drives you nuts, then this will drive you nuts too. But as far as comfort and performance, what I find matters the most, build quality as well. That's the stuff that's super important to me. This is it's top notch. It really is. Like, this competes with quality on super expensive pens or high-end ones. Even it's not, I'm not going to say it's as well engineered and stuff like that, all the features as on a Lamy 2000, but as far as construction and overall build and just consideration on fitments and how close and the tolerances are and all that stuff, clearances, it's in that ballpark with what he's doing with what he's has available at his disposal for his budget. So it's a really great pen. This is probably my favorite of the lot, is the Entry. Actually, it's just super comfortable. I showed my Mont Blanc 24 earlier because this is like one of the most just well writing pens I've had. It's super comfortable. And for me, I know he mentioned the Esterbrook J series, the vintage one, is sort of how he, had an inspiration. For me, this is very, it reminded me of my Mont Blanc 24. It just fits in the hand, super, super nice, very comfortable to write with. That's, my impression with the Entry. So the price point's great, and you're getting a great writer. Yeah, I don't have any issues with the pen. It's really, really good. Thanks again goes out to Ben Walsh from Gravitas Pens, and thank you to everyone who's been watching the videos and subscribing and supporting me. This is just awesome. This was a crazy idea I had one night, not even 2 years ago now, to chuck a video up on YouTube about fountain pens because we couldn't do fountain pen meetings in person, and here we are. So throw in some likes and comments and subscriptions if you haven't. Hopefully, I'll be able to get around to doing the video that this is sort of at the heart of it, what this is all about, and I can explain what I'm doing here. So anyways, thanks for watching. Catch ya next time.